Good afternoon. I just got back from church. It is August the 3rd, Sunday. It's 12:43. On one of my channels, I'm watching Rich Does Politics. And it's important that I post today because I don't know for how much longer I'm going to be able to post. In Canada, you see, things are heating up. And I know that I'm probably very compromised as far as my privacy settings and all of that. And I don't know how else to do what I need to do in order to keep trying. In vain, it feels like sometimes, to get my messages out. Hopefully, even if there's one other person who hears me and watches me, my hope is that at least the information is there that I have to share. And yes, I don't pretend that I'm not offensive, because I am. I'm offensive to even my family members. I don't pretend that I am acceptable in Canadian society, particularly. I learned the hardest way possible that I'm not acceptable anywhere in Canada. I learned that intimately during the COVID debacle. And when I chose not to allow myself to be poisoned with that bogus vaccine that Justin Trudeau and his like, in my opinion, in conjunction with all the globalist cohorts and co-conspirators in the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, the United Nations, the IMF, the European Union, King, Charles, Bill Gates, Anthony Fauci, all of those people that got together and did whatever they could to discover how vulnerable the population of the world is to the influence of these monstrous organizations by imposing the bogus restrictions on the world's populations during that pandemic that was created by the likes of people like Fauci in a lab in China. Let's be honest, these labs exist all over the world, especially where the globalists hold sway. And their reason for existing, in my opinion, is to conduct biological studies and warfare instruments of mass destruction in secret. That's what I believe, based on my critical thinking. Yeah, see my hands? That's a consequence to my poisoning. That crap's been going on before I was born, especially in Canada. You know, that country that was Canada, that's been taken over now by the globalists and is currently being run by Carney. But anyway, I digress, as I often do. reason I'm talking today is because I want to call attention to a really nice guy, beautiful man, who has this channel called Rich Does Politics on YouTube. And he's very amenable to all of his guests. And while some of his guests are very controversial because they know a lot, sometimes because they fought a lot, sometimes because they're politically enlightened, sometimes it's because they're spiritually enlightened, but he gives them a fair shake. And the conversations that occur on his station are very, very informative to a creative, not a creative, well, a creative mind as well, but as a critically thinking person. And I believe that the humanity is starting to develop access to their creative thinking skills again, for the most part. I hope and pray. But Rich Does Politics. A few weeks ago, he had an interview with a very controversial guest. His name, let me just see if I can find out what the guy's name is. Let me see here. What is his name? Oh, shoot. Oh, shoot. I'm gonna have to play it a little bit more just to I don't know how to pin things to my his name is Cliff, C-L-I-F, Hi, H-I-G-H. Now, Rich conducts interviews with a lot of different people, you know, some of whom I really feel are like me on an information seeking and information collecting journey. Some of whom are on a faith journey, I believe. Rich is on a faith journey. Anyway, I do believe that we're living in a very critical time, and particularly, and things are really heating up right now as a direct result of the midterm elections that are happening in the United States of America. Now, I know that there are other channels that I watch. Candace Owens is one of them, and Baron something or other, can't remember his name. Anyway, they've kind of gone on a bit of a down a rabbit hole when it comes to Charlie Kirk's assassination, which I believe ties in somehow to what's occurring right now. Probably. Well, definitely, I think the evidence to any thinking person is pretty apparent. Anyway, that there's been a concerted effort for unknown reasons to tie up the Charlie Kirk assassination to this furry person, which does not seem even as a cursory understanding of what happened on that day in September 10th to that poor, beautiful man. There's no way. The narrative that the authorities want you to believe is the truth. And I believe it is quite disgusting that the Turning Point organization on the whole has taken, well, it just seems disgusting, and it feels disgusting. It makes my skin crawl to consider that this poor man's life work has been turned into an exploitive money grab by those that used him to become powerful and popular, I believe, and rich. It's disgusting the way these people are behaving, and my opinion on that is that whatever caused the demise of that beautiful man is evil, plain and simple. But I believe that he was taken, the circumstances and all of this hoopla surrounding his death has done what it was meant to do, and that's to distract the mega people of the United States and the people from the task at hand. And the task at hand is a lot bigger than poor Charlie Kirk. God bless him. Eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon him, his soul. All the souls of the faithfully departed through the mercy of God rest in peace. And his journey on this earth was fruitful, but not in the way that this organization that is now exploiting him and his work for monetary gain is using now, because he brought so many men and women and young people into the conversation, which is so important, and which is part of the reason I want to hopefully get the message out about Rich Does Politics, his YouTube channel, and I believe he's on other forums as well. He's not a very big, he doesn't have a great number of subscribers, but he is fantastic because the people that he chooses to interview provoke thought, critical thought. And if you're a person who wants to understand what is happening and why it's happening, and determine for yourself the truth of the matter, of the state of your neighborhood, the state of your family, the state of your community, your country, you need to be able to take responsibility and investigate and look into all the avenues and all the sources available to you. Because for far too long, we've relied on limited sources. Those limited sources have been completely and utterly compromised and do nothing but propagandize for the power that has been in control, I believe, for much of the last century, and wants to maintain that control for whatever purpose they have in mind. And I believe with my heart and soul that that purpose is evil. Evil. When you look at the globalist agenda, when you look at what happened in World War I, World War II, and every war since, you can see a pattern of behavior. Communism became a real threat to humanity at the beginning of the 20th century in 1917. And that ideology, religious ideology, has taken hold. And it's not surprising, because Our Lady, my faith system, I have a faith in God, not in man, not in political organizations, not in money, power, control, not in prophets. Sometimes prophets can lead you astray, especially if that prophet is telling you it's okay to kill. I'm just saying. I mean, you have to consider the truth of the matter. And the truth usually is apparent to the thinking person, not so much to the brainwashed person. And we, in the free world, particularly here in Canada and places like, I suspect, don't know for sure, but I suspect Australia and any country that the British Commonwealth kind of held sway over, you know, with their parliamentary system of governance. Yeah. King Charles, what's going on with you? Do you want to make things right before your time on this earth is over? You're supposed to be the King of England. You're supposed to be the ruler of England. You're supposed to be the great protector of the Church of England. Not faiths. The Church of England, which is Christian. I mean, yes, during the Henry years, you parted ways with the Catholic Church. Yeah, that's true. But the Christian philosophy's supposed to remain. Why are you selling out your people? Why are you allowing for your people and your church to be put at the risk of being taken over by communists and fanatical people? Of other faiths? England is supposed to be a Christian country. I look to Spain. Look at what's going on in Spain right now. Spain's supposed to be a Christian country. Remember the Spanish Inquisition? You know, all those Protestants that conducted that? Caused all that chaos. And history was being rewritten and you know, by the winners of the wars, right? What is it called? The Spanish Inquisition, all these things that were used as tools to convert society away from Christ's teachings. You know, the Christ that teaches that everybody's equal, that each of us are created in the image and likeness of God Himself. And we have a purpose. We're supposed to forgive. We're supposed to honor the life of the individual and God first, and everything else after that. God, family. God, faith, family, and freedom for everybody. You know, that's what the last couple of 100 years have been about. Destroying those things in every society. Because a king is a man who wants to keep his rule over others. And the only way you can do that is by forcing and persuading people to believe that you are superior to them and they must serve. So all those young men, young military-age men, invading Spain. How long do you suppose Spain's going to be a Christian country now that it's got a communist leader who let out prisoners, who gave amnesty to all the illegal people that came from another ideology? It isn't Christian, I can almost guarantee. Isn't it timely that that's all happening right now? I remember I look back to 2020 and I see what was, well, I predicted what was happening then. I did, I knew it. I think I even made some references to it in some of my social media attempts in those days. But in those days, well, Trump didn't realize what he was up against. I tried to warn him in 2016 when he was elected. Hey, you have no idea how compromised CNN, ABC, NBC, all of the major news media is, because my experience in Canada by that point was completely understood that there's nothing that Canadian citizens are allowed to see on cable networks, over the television set, that isn't compliant with the liberal agenda, which is AKA globalist agenda. And in those days, there was no difference between a liberal, an NDP, a Bloc, a Conservative. They were all the same, doing the same thing on behalf of their leader, the globalist movement, to re-enslave Canadian citizens, to make them be willing to line up and take a jab that was poisoning them. For example, 95% of us. To turn a blind eye to the fact that, wait a second, how come it's okay for everybody and their dog to come to Canada now all of a sudden, since 2017? Why I'm Canadian born? How come I'm a minority in my own country? What is that about? Why? We stopped asking these questions, didn't we? Well, we were conditioned not to ask these questions. Our rulers, our gods, our government officials could be trusted, right? Follow the science. Safe and effective. Brainwash. But that brainwashing happened, I dare say, from the very beginning of, well, I don't know. Began before I was born. Hitler got away with what he did and was able to do what he did because the people of Germany allowed it to happen. They were propagandized and brainwashed and cajoled into believing that he was some kind of a hero. And Kearney has got everybody believing that Trump is like Hitler, when Kearney is a part and parcel to his organization and his organized behavior. It's like gaslighting to the max. It's crazy. Oh, yeah, when we were kids, we used to say, I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say to me bounces off me and sticks to you. Well, that's kind of what the whole world has been doing well, all these pigs, you know, the globalist pigs, Fauci, the Mr. I Am Science liar, Soros, the so-called Jew who left Germany very rich after World War II. How did that happen, Mr. Soros? How did that happen? Did somebody ever investigate how you got all that money that you were being so kind and giving away to all these Black Lives Matter people that were rioting in the streets in 2020 in order to try to create chaos, deflect from the election that was coming, that was going to re-elect Mr. Trump, and he was going to put an end to the globalist movement agenda. Right? Fauci, that whole pandemic nonsense. I don't know. I think the evidence is finally coming out that all of that was related, connected, and orchestrated. All of it. All of it. That guy, Floyd, the poor guy that died horrifically with a drug overdose, but it looked like somebody killed him. It was a drug overdose, people. You know, that came out. That's true. No, he wasn't murdered by the police. He had enough fentanyl in him to kill 3 horses, apparently. That's what the truth is of the matter. But it was a convenient little excuse to pay off a lot of nutcases, most of whom were white, to say Black Lives Matter more than everybody's life mattering. What about human life mattering? What about the businesses that were destroyed because of the Soros-backed and paid-for demonstrations that occurred then? Now, that's a one-off kind of thing, really. Don't you think that No Kings Rally and all of this other nonsense, you know, that nutcase woman who tried to run down an officer of the law as he was trying to conduct his duty to eject the illegal criminals from the country of the United States, who got shot justifiably because the poor man had to defend himself from the nutcase white woman who was brainwashed and paid to demonstrate, to do what she did. Well, that didn't translate into the riots that they were hoping for either, did it? None of your nonsense is going to work anymore. The more people that wake up to the manipulation of these Democrats, every single one of them except for maybe that Featherman guy, and some Republicans. And we already know who they are, Mr. Hune or whatever. Pass the laws before the Senate goes on vacation to ensure that your elections really do take place. And Republicans, get out there. People who follow Candace and all of those people, get out there and vote for your Republican people. Because these animals, if they get control of your House or your Senate, you can look forward to becoming New York City or the whole state of California, Washington, D.C., Washington State, Oregon, Chicago, that city. Do you want that to be the order of the day everywhere in the United States? Because that's what the plan is. Destroy the population that's indigenous to the country in order to rule them, so that these rich pigs these globalist pigs like Bill Gates, who owns so much farmland. Why does that monster want so much farmland? Does he want to control food? I know he was working really hard to try to control the pandemic. And doesn't he have something to do with ticks and meat? I mean, you have to be blind and limited in the IQ to not see it. All of this is happening. Now, when you look at Spain, these are all men, all young men, strong men. Where did they come from? How come they're invading Spain? Isn't there another strait in connection with Spain that Spain controls? How close in proximity to Iran is Spain? Morocco. This is endgame thing. My conspiratorial mind has me thinking. They're in a hurry and they're desperate. And they're showing their hand. Now, yes, the people like Candace would have you believe that what's happening in Iran is all about Israel and Netanyahu, that nutcase. He's a tool of these globalists. Netanyahu, come on. A warlord. Trump isn't a tool of anybody. But he does know how to play this game because he learned it the hardest way possible between 2016 and 2024. You think that very intelligent man didn't pick up a thing or two? Doesn't have a plan that doesn't include anybody but him? I mean, he's got a big ego, and he's a very smart man, and he, without question, is working on behalf of the people of the United States because it's in his best interest. Despite of whatever you want to think of him, I happen to think he's a good person. I really do. He's not an evil person like the Clintons, Obamas, or stupid like Kamala and Biden. Bush. They were all the same. And they were all working towards one goal, and that's to accumulate as much wealth for themselves as they could. And accommodate whoever was going to pay them the most. And sell out the people of the land that they were supposed to protect. That's what's happened here in Canada. Look at everything that monster has done and not done since it was elected. That's not a human being. Kearney is an example of the liar and the evil and the lack of regard for human people that you can look forward to. If you don't get to that election and see to it that it is properly done, I think the Mandamis, or these communist people, communist doesn't work. I'll give you everything you want. You just have to let me control what you get. That's what communism is. There's no God. There's no God, there's just me. That guy needs to go back to Uganda where he belongs. That New York guy. And all of person on, I don't know what news network, they were listing down the agenda of these Democrats. Abolish the Senate. Yep. Very proud of herself. Yep. Really get rid of prisons. Yep. That's our long-term goal. Abolish ISIS. Yep. Absolutely. What normal thinking person wants to abolish the rule of law? What normal thinking person wants to abolish the right to property ownership? Wants to control what you eat and make it so that you eat bugs? I mean, come on. These people are out to destroy the average person. Look at South Africa. It was a testing ground. Rwanda was a testing ground. Uganda, testing ground. Congo, testing ground. The people that were in control paid to keep control over those resources of those countries by having the people of those countries fight amongst themselves, be distracted, look for free handouts, dumb them down, starve them. That's what's coming for the world. And I believe, again, I'm nobody, nothing. I'm less than nothing. I'm an unvaccinated woman in Canada that's over the age of 60. And I was born here, to parents who were born here, to grandparents who were born here. And I've got Indigenous blood, which makes me disposable. And I'm not unlike every other Canadian-born person or immigrant who came here prior to 2017. Because those that came after that came to vote for that pig, carny, liberal government to keep control and to replace the population, the Indigenous population of Canada. I believe it's true. I believe Carney proves it every freaking day it's true. His New World Order has nothing to do with humanity and everything to do with getting himself and his friends rich and powerful and in control. And his friends are everywhere. In the United Nations, in the WEF, in the IMF, in the World Health Organization, Europe, and the UK. Just so you know. Trump is fighting them. He wants to give Iran back to the Iranian people. He wanted Palestine to be given back to the Palestinian people. Netanyahu is part of that problem. And I believe the average Israeli who isn't one of these nutcases that want to kill 1,000 for every tear a Jewish mother shed. Well, those people, they're beyond hope. They don't respect anything but their ideology, which is a little bit weird and wrong. But Israeli people, the good people, they hate Netanyahu. They do. They tried to have him arrested. They don't want him leading. But he got there because the globalists want him. He's willing to destroy everybody. And he can be bought and paid for. I think, it's my opinion, I think he's kind of proven that. And those like him within his government regime. They're desperate because Mr. Trump has cut off the flow of money to these people. And if you don't get to the voting stations and you don't start looking for the truth outside of your CNN, these mainstream media sources, well, you're condemning yourself to a future that you don't belong in. You're not allowed to exist unless you're an elite like them. Mr. Elon Musk is the world's richest man. And he's throwing as much money as he can, again, to try to help ensure that these monsters don't get away with it again, like they did in 2020. He's a good person. And what happened to him? Is wrong. What happened to Dr. Jordan Peterson, our Canadian hero? Wrong. What happened to Charlie Kirk? Wrong. But Candace Owens, you don't know everything. You're angry, and you have a right to be. Because why? Why does it seem like you're the only one who wants truth and justice for Charlie? Multiply that by millions. That's what Trump is up against. It's not just Charlie. Not just Charlie Kirk. It's wrong. What happened to him? But it's happening to so many people every day. And it's going to get worse. Go and vote. Make sure you vote for the candidate that you believe in will stop what's going to happen if these monsters get elected, because you have been distracted and the people who follow you are distracted and won't go to vote. That's power if it's used correctly with knowledgeable constituencies, voting for the policies that will protect your way of life we lost that. We threw that away in Canada. But I don't know for sure that we ever had it to begin with, because we were a parliamentary system. We've been the only hope Canada has, or the Canadian-born people of Canada have, is that the United States continues what Trump has started and finishes it and eliminates the globalist movement. Because I suspect the weasels and the cowards that have been paid would at least be forced to change their way, their trajectory, and come up with a new plan for maybe next century. But anyway, it's Sunday. I didn't want to go on. I've been going on now for 46 minutes, but it's important. But please, the last thing I want to talk about today is Medjugorje. It's so sad. Isn't it interesting that Medjugorje was attacked by this person? God only knows. My hope and prayer is that people will report it and will investigate the message of Medjugorje and start praying. Because Mary came to us many times over these last couple of 100 years to warn us about what's happening and what will happen. Fatima, Portugal. Portugal's not far from Spain. 1917, October 13th. 1917. The miracle that the world saw and couldn't deny. And her message was a prediction of what is happening today. If you're prayerful, pray. If you're a person of faith, please implore your fellow faithful people to respect the lives of everybody and to love God, to serve God, to know God, and to do God's will, not their own, in this world, so we can be happy in this world, all of us, and forever with Him in the next. That's my message for today. I have a feeling it's going to be more and more difficult for this Canadian girl to be free to express her opinions. Carney's new internet policies took effect, I think it was July 17th, July 18th of this year. I'm going to still try, because I have no choice but to try. Have a good day.